My name is Chris. I'm going to teach you how to replace the R5 DIN plug on any patient station, dual patient station, or enhanced patient station. The tools you're going to need is the removal tool. You'll need a Phillips tweaker, and then you'll also need either 2 sets of channel locks or needle nose, and but anything that's going to help you clamp, and then of course obviously a brand new DIN plug. So what we're going to do first is go ahead and remove the faceplate off of the station. And of course this is on the wall, but you should probably already know how to remove the faceplate from the device itself. This has lock-in tabs on both sides, so you'll use the removal tool or something that can pry from underneath. Usually I notice that going from the bottom is the best part. Disconnect that and the rest should just come out, no problem. So now that we have this removed, we're actually looking at this connector back here. So one of the things you want to do is this connector has a little pressure tab. You can actually push it down and that should release. You should be able to pull the connector out after you put some pressure on that. So let's do that again. So that pops out the connector. By the way, three issues that can possibly happen in this. The pins on the front of the DIN plug, they can be pushed together. Another thing is that if the DIN plug is actually tilted, you can realign it back to the top. There's a white indicator on the front of the DIN plug that tells you what is up. If that is rubbed away, if you notice all the slots are pointed towards the middle except for one. There's one that just runs perpendicular to that center pin. That is actually your top pin. So you can actually adjust it back to the top. The other problem that you'll run into, and this doesn't happen very often, this connector that I just popped off will come out. I've only seen it about 3 times, but it is possible. If you see that loose, you can actually just push it back in and you'll hear a click when you push it in. So once we replace that, you'll also see that as well. So after you disconnect this connector, you want to go ahead and unscrew using your tweaker to unscrew these little set screws. Now you may forget to put this back on, so what I do to make sure that I don't forget about this is to put the connector and the screws on the faceplate, because when you go to put the faceplate on, if you see screws still on there, then you know you forgot to put this lock-in device back on it. This lock-in device should keep somebody from turning this left and right too bad. It doesn't always work, but it's a good safeguard versus what they used to have. Now the next thing you'll notice is like this little claw device that actually sticks in between here. At the very top of it, it has like a little indentation. That's what's considered the top of the device. Like this is facing up, this is facing up, so that little pin is the top. So what you want to do is just put your screwdriver in there and get that off. Basically it's just hooking into the actual plastic. So once you get that out, you can get that out. If you're trying to salvage, or maybe somebody wants to take a look at it, you can just tilt the connector, run it through it, and then you get to keep that connector. Now the easiest way to get this out, it can be a little dangerous, so when you push this out, do not put your hand over the DIN plug because you're trying to push it out this way. So put your hand off to the side, put your screwdriver behind the DIN plug, and then just push out. And it should come just that straight out. So once it's out, you can just gently, because this is really soft, you can actually push this out of the hole and get it out altogether. And so now you remove your DIN plug. This is a good DIN plug, so we won't be throwing this away. But now we got a new DIN plug, we got a replacement. If you look at the front of this plastic piece, it actually has an up arrow. So that is where it's going to be, towards the top. So you definitely want to make sure that that is in the up direction. And of course the front of the DIN plug also has an up arrow, so that's going to match it. But for now, let's not worry about that part. Let's worry about getting that claw back on. It's much easier to do it. It's much easier to do it if you do it now instead of waiting for later on. So we're going to tilt this connector and put it back through here. Once we get it in, Like I said before, this little tab, this little stub that sticks out, that goes to the top of this. And as long as you align this part with the up arrow, this will also align to it. Everything just goes down into it, and this is what's going to lock on to this metal connector. So once we have that in place, it's pretty solid on there. So keep your finger to keep it from being loose. Now you need to align the top of this connector to the top of this connector. Keeping your finger or some type of holder right here to just barely push it in. You'll get it so far. Then that's where we grab our tools. So right now it's kind of indented. You can see it's kind of in there, but not all the way. If you can do this with just your hands, you are a very strong person. So I have a pair of channel locks, and all I'm doing is just getting a position on one of this, on like this, the plastic piece right here, and the other piece on the metal. You don't have to worry about squeezing too hard. Once you get them both together, you're going to be able to squeeze simultaneously, and you're going to get the connection down just fine. So let me get this position just right. Sorry, it came loose. So now I have the channel lock in place. I'm going to get my needle nose, put it on it, and then with equal pressure, you want to squeeze down, and that will squeeze in the connector into place. So with equal pressure, this is not anything you're squeezing super hard. So now it's in there. So the connector's in place, and the top part's a little up, and then of course, just to correct that, just get your needle nose and squeeze just that top part, and it will anchor it down. Go. Now that that's on there, the last thing we need to do is put this connector back on here. This is what feeds all your data, audio, everything in here. And when you push it in, there should be like a little click when it's all the way in. You should be able to hear it. So once you have that click on there, get your pieces that are right here, you put them back in, and it should fit right at the top part. Like right towards the top, and that little tab, that locking tab, should be in between this device right here. So tighten it back down, and if you do have it kind of off of the plastic, when you tighten it down, there will be a gap there. You don't want any gap between that green plastic and the faceplate plastic. Just do one side at a time. The hole should line up before you start, and if you need to, you can just turn it a little bit to line it back up. So once it's nice and anchored down, you can see that the connector is back on there. You should look at the front. The white arrow should line up with the top arrow. This one looks like it's slightly tilted, and that is okay. I'll show you how to fix that as well. So on your pillow speaker, like I said, the top arrow right there is where you want to align it. You can actually put your connector, line up with the top of the pillow speaker, put it in there, and then just turn it ever so slightly so it's to the correct up position. Unplug it, and now it's lined up.